All right, so Keiichi, he's been going crazy because he's trying to figure out how to save Satoko, but he realizes he's still a kid. It's kind of a bitter pill to swallow. He's been thinking about things like putting him in his closet when really hiding her in his closet or whatever for years. When the best thing he could do is probably just talk to his mom or his father. Um, you know, adding one more kid to a household. I know that's a big ask, but I've known family members who've done it and friends who have done it. Um, then what happened to Keiichi? Oh yeah, he met Takuno. Well, he met Tomitaka, then he met Takuno, and he was talking to her, and he was floating the idea, trying to be like, hey, maybe Teppei can be next. He's a Hojo too, and trying to see if he can try and solve the problem that way. And then he just got frustrated at school over how they were dealing with Satoko's abusive situation. So started screaming at his friends, started screaming at his teacher. And maybe he'll chill out. Actually, I don't think he'll chill out. I think he can only ramp up from here. So let's see what's going on. What's going to happen next. Wrong. Right here. So we're in chapter 8, I guess, or part 8. The die of fate has been cast. Reporting to a public agency, which we'd been being warned could instead result in something far worse for Satoko if we didn't have the evidence first. And just like that, had I failed, had I let my emotions get the better of me in that moment, maybe I should have stayed silent and left everything to Mion, since she had been relatively calm. I remember the punishment game where we had to badmouth Curry and how me saying anything would have made it worse, and Satoko told us to leave the talking to her. Maybe it was the same thing here. I was impulsive, so maybe I should have just shut up and looked at the floor. But it was too late to lament it. The die I had thrown wouldn't be coming back into my hands. All we could do was pray for something good to happen.
圭一君は圭一君にできる精一杯をしたよ。だから、あとは先生たちに任せよう。ね。
俺にできる精一杯？本当に俺が死に物狂いに精一杯だったら、里子を夕べのうちに連れ出して、どこかの廃屋にでも隠れてる。そうならなかったってことは、俺は精一杯じゃなかったってことだろ。
もう考えるのはよそ。圭一君、少し根を詰めすぎだよ。そんな調子じゃ、圭一君まで倒れちゃう。
Just leave me alone. I left her with those words and stared lazily up at the ceiling. I wondered if I'd really got Chie-sensei to understand. Would the public agency intervene and solve everything within the day? Would they acknowledge the abuse and guarantee her safety? After lunch break, our afternoon classes were mostly self-study. The teacher came back to the classroom occasionally, but then the phone in the lounge would ring and she'd have a long conversation with the caller. Everyone in class got the feeling they knew what those phone calls were about. Sensei came trotting back into the classroom.
今日は何度も電話で本当にすみませんでしたね。では今日はこれでおしまいにします。委員長、号令。起立。
It looked to me like Sensei had been wearing a dark expression ever since after lunch break. It wasn't a very relieving expression. It wouldn't be. Even if Sensei 100% understood the situation and passionately explained it to the other person. At the end, the Child Consultation Center, as a public agency, would be the ones to decide whether to get her to safety. Sensei understood that as well as us, and that's why she looks so unreliable right now.
ケイちゃん、帰ろうよ。部活する気も起きないでしょ。
みーちゃん、部活は誰がかけても面白くないよ。
Rena was right. It was no fun for us if someone was missing. If the teacher's expression had shown more promise, then maybe we could have gone home more comfortably. but I couldn't let myself feel relieved. I couldn't be naive and tell myself all I could do was pray. Now that the dice had been cast, he really likes that expression, just in case they didn't get her to safety and decide to wait and see again. I'd need to take further measures. We've asked the people who could do something official already. Then there was one more place that was worth asking for help. She might laugh it off, or it might be right, and I could be endangering my own life. But I'd try.
ミオ、今日さ、お前の家に寄ってもいいか？
Hey, can your family, do a hit, please?
お前、漫画かなり持ってるんだろ？
Yeah, manga. I'm really interested in manga right now.
少しまとめ狩りしたいんだけどな。
いいけど。
To read some Ranma. There was an ominous meaning behind my words, so Mion realized what I really meant right away. I wanted to talk about something alone. That's what I meant.
みーちゃん、ケイチくん、早く帰ろう。
Ren already had her shoes on and was waving to us from the schoolyard. Mion's house was gigantic in every way imaginable. The house itself was vaguely old-fashioned, traditional Japanese house, but the yard, I guess, or their plot of land, was enormous. It easily convinced me that they were the major landowners, with Hinamazawa under their thumb. Basically, Mion brought me through the guest room and through a servant brought us some tea.
へえ、さすが金持ちだな。お手伝いさんなんか雇ってるのかよ。
Osho-chan.
私とバッチャしか住んでないもの。私だけじゃやってけないよ。
The servant left, telling us it was 5 o'clock, then withdrew with soft footsteps.
週に2、3回ね。バッチャの世話とか掃除の手伝いで来てくれてる。3、4人がローテーションで入ってくれてるんで、大抵毎日誰かがいてくれるよ。夕方までだけどね。あ、宴会とかがあって人手が欲しい時には別途に呼んでるんだけどさ。
If you had the money to hire all those people, then just take Satoko in. Yeah. But you could also just open your mouth and talk to your mom. I mean, Jesus. I glared at her as I thought that, and Mion seemed to catch on immediately.
ごめん。
いいよ。金の問題じゃないことは分かってるからな。
Oh, that's true. It's not only the money. Forgot about that.
先に言っとくけど、うちはお金持ちかもしれないけど、
There's also like a criminal pimp. I guess he's a pimp that would probably not alert the authorities that Satoko is gone if she did go missing. Just to be clear, yeah.
私に自由にできるお金は全くないんだからね。そこだけは誤解しないでほしい。
It kind of looked like I was bullying her. It's because you are. Mion had been apologizing to me a lot lately. Was Mion the sort of person who would do that this much? Maybe it's just that I've been looking so damn grim lately.
でさ、何？ケイちゃん、なんか話があったんじゃないの？
ミオンに、かなり本気な話がある。突然な話で、ミオンは面食らうかもしれないが、聞いてほしい。
何？
あ、先に逃げ道を渡しておくな。仮に本当だったとして、ミオンはそれを認めてくれなくてもいい。しらばっくれててもいい。だけれど、最後まで俺の話は聞いてほしい。
I want you to whack a guy.
鬼ヶ淵村御三家の今や筆頭家。その次期当主の園崎美代に話がある。
He called it Unigafuchi, not Hinamazawa. At first, Mion looked like she had no idea what I was saying, but at hearing the whole sentence and putting it together, she reacted.
どこで聞いたの？
You guys are full of demon people, right?
それは関係ないことだ。
I definitely couldn't tell her who told me. Takano, you told me not to, but please forgive me. This was why I asked you about it after all.
ケイちゃんが鬼ヶ淵村の名を知ってることだけでも驚きだけど、私についていろいろとあることないことを知ってそうだね。
ああ、あること、ないことだ。俺が勘違いしてるだけなのかもしれない。 でも、それでもいいから聞いてくれ。そして、もしも本当なんだったら、
ケイちゃんが何の話をしようとしてるかわからないけど、話す前に釘を刺すよ。とにかくケイちゃんは、大きな勘違いをしてる。だからできるなら、私はケイちゃんの話も聞きたくない。聞いても、何も叶えてあげられないからね。でも、話すことでケイちゃんの肩が少しでも軽くなるなら聞くよ。本当に聞くだけ。何も起こらないよ。それでもいいね。
ああ、
Mion seemed to know what kind of thing I'd be talking about. She warned me that doing so would be fruitless. That much was obvious. If what I was going to say was true, then the Sonozaki family would be the masterminds behind the string of freak deaths that had been occurring every year in Hinamizawa.
お社様のたたりってあるよな。
Mion nodded a little.
正体不明。なぜ起こるのかも不明。個々には解決しながらも、全体で見れば不可解な連続開始、連続失踪事件。でも、一つだけ共通することがある。それは、必ず村の旧敵が標的に選ばれること。
みたいだね。
Mion spoke as if it didn't relate to her. That was fine. She didn't have to admit it. For now, I just wanted her to stay quiet and listen to me.
あさってだろ、綿流し。今年のたたりの犠牲者ってさ、もう決まってるのか？
That's very direct of you. Mion didn't answer. Her expression remained the same too. Like she said, she was just quietly listening.
あ、ごめんな。聞いてるだけって約束なのに、質問しちゃ変だよな。
Mion gave me a look she'd never given me before, a faraway look, a sympathetic one. She didn't nod, she just smiled faintly and listened to me.
もしも、今年のたたりが、里子のおじじゃなかったなら、里子のおじに変えてくれ。だって、去年は里子のおばだろ。順番から言えば、決しておかしくはないだろ。
そうだね。そういう順序もあるね。
第一あいつ、去年のたたりでおばが死んだ後、里子を放り出して丸一年、町に逃げ出してたじゃないか。そんな奴、もろにお社様のたたり確定じゃないかよ。今年のたたりに選んでも不足はないはずだぜ。
そうだね。今年のたたりであいつが死んでも、多分みんな納得するね。
俺、聞いたんだ。お社様のたたりってのは、その。
No matter how I looked at it, I wasn't sure whether I should continue. Yeah, you probably shouldn't. I mean, basically like, oh, your family's full of Yakuza assassins, right? No matter how I tried, the words wouldn't come out.
ひなみ沢連続開始事件。通称、お社様のたたりは、園崎家が主導で御三家が起こしている村ぐるみの事件だ。でしょ？
It's reminded of the Godfather.
別に俺は、それにミオンが関わってるとか、そんなのには興味がないんだ。ただ、もしも、そういうたたりを決めている連中に渡りがつくなら、里子のおじをたたりに選ぶように、言ってほしいだけなんだ。頼む！
You come to me on this, the day of my daughter's wedding, and insult me? You never even, like, ask me for a cup of coffee. Jesus.
ケイちゃんの言ってる内容は、さっきから本当にひどいこと。ひなみ沢連続開始事件が、園崎家主導の事件なんだとしたら、それじゃあ、主犯格は私ってことだよね。私がたたりを決め、指示をし、何人も殺めて消したことになる。ケイちゃんは私を、人殺し呼ばわりするんだ。
Yeah?
だから、言ってるじゃないか。ミオンが連続殺人の主犯だろうと、無関係だろうと、たとえミオンが殺人犯だって、俺の親友であることには、何も関係ないじゃないか。
Oh my god.
それでも全然構わないんだぜ。警察に追われたら助けてやる。
Is that true friendship? It might be. I don't know.
お前のアリバイを作ってやるし、逃走だって助けてやる。仲間で親友だからだ。そうだろ。
Mion looked surprised for a while. She was dumbfounded.
いきなり共犯宣言？ケイちゃん、かなり大胆だよ、それ。
いいから話の腰を折るな。佐藤のおじを今年のたたりに。
ケイちゃん、ストップ。そろそろご飯の準備をしたいから、今日はこれくらいにしたいんだけど。
ミオ！
I then realized that my cheeks were wet with tears. They slid down my chin and fell, drip drop, to the tatami mat.
最初から言ってる通り、ケイちゃんは大きな勘違いをしてる。お社様のたたりは、お社様のたたり。たとえ人間の起こした事件であったにせよ、それは園崎家とは、ましてや私とは何の関係もないよ。
ああ、それは分かっているさ。
だから、ケイちゃんの必死の訴えには胸を打たれるけど、それだけ。私が叶えてあげたくても、叶えてあげられない。それもわかるね。
ああ。
でも、ケイちゃんの気持ちは、痛いくらいにわかったよ。もしも本当に私が、ケイちゃんの言うように、御三家を操って、毎年の犠牲者を選べる立場にあったなら、きっと私は、ケイちゃんの願いを叶えているよ。
ミオ！
でも現実は違う。私はただの園崎ミオン。確かに園崎家はいろいろな意味で悪い噂を持って、ひなみ沢を影から支配している一族だけれども、連続開始事件とは何の関係もない。ダム闘争では確かに少々過激な抵抗もしたけれど、それだけ。人殺しなんて大それたこと、絶対にやらないよ。
そんな、悲しいこと言うなよ。
You know, what about the Tepe's girl at the beginning, though? I don't know.
せめて今だけでも、嘘でもいいから、うなずいてくれればいいじゃないか。
ケイちゃん、夢を見るのは勝手。私がここでうなずいてみせれば、ケイちゃんは、サトコがあさっての夜に解放されると信じて、肩の荷を下ろすことができるんだろうけどね。でも、無情にもサトコのおじは、あさっての夜も超える。来週になっても再来週になっても居続ける。それを覚悟してね。私は、綿流しの次の日に、なぜ殺さなかったなんてケイちゃんに詰め寄られたくない。
ミオ。
Mion stood up slowly and closed the sliding door to keep out the wind that had grown chilly.
ミオさんかな？ケイちゃんにそんな話を吹き込んだのは。あの人、ひなみ沢をいい感じに誤解してるからな。まあ、本人が一人で楽しんでる分にはいいんだけど。ケイちゃんを感化するのはいただけないな。やれやれ。これだからよそ者は。
高野さんは関係ないからな。
はいはい。でも安心して。仮にミオさんがケイちゃんに喋ったと分かったって、別にどうにもならないんだから。別にミオさんが今年のたたりに選ばれるわけじゃない。そもそも、今年もたたりがあるかどうかなんてわからないよ。あんなの、不幸な偶然がただ積み重なっただけなんだからさ。
聞いてくれて、もしもミオンが、連続事件と何の関係もなかったなら、本当に不愉快な話をした。謝っておくな。
そうだね。謝っておいてくれるかな。
Mian said she didn't have much time, but she still brought me to the gate. She said she had a meeting or something about today Sunday's Watanagashi festival, so there would be a lot of people from the town council and festival committee coming. Despite her being so busy, she still listened to what I had to say.
天に神様がいるならさ、きっと、ケイちゃんの強い思いは伝わるから。
ああ、 今日は変な話をして、本当にごめんな。今日の話は、なかったことにしてくれていい。
忘れておくよ。
じゃあ、明日な。
バイバイ。
I had really only spent a short time with Mion. Talking to her made me think. It was clear that Takano had told me, at least, wasn't a complete fabrication, what she told me. If Mion was really, really unconnected to the incidents, then she probably wouldn't have listened to me so quietly. She heard me out until I was done without making any quips, and I wanted to think that was the proof. Well, I did kind of feel like I was grasping at straws, because you are. Of course, thinking back on it, it was a terrible thing to discuss. I mean, I went to my friend's house, called her a serial murderer, and then told her to kill Satoko's uncle. I was the only one talking that whole time. Mian quietly listened to everything I had to say like a pastor listening to a confession. She could have gotten angry partway through, told me off, and told me to go wash my face in miso soup and come back later. It could also be that she's actually not sure who's responsible for these deaths. But she didn't. Whoop. Was that proof that Mion's family, the Sonozaki, were the masterminds? Or was she just listening because she felt sorry for me going kind of crazy? I didn't know which it was, but it was the only effort I could make at the moment. It was another form of insurance should the worst come to worst and the public agency decided to wait and see. It was a completely useless resistance, literally grasping at straws. Sensei said that if she reported it to the Child Consultation Center, they'd have to respond on the same day. Could they already be in the middle of responding to it now? If Satoko came to school tomorrow morning all energetic, then everything would be just a needless fear. Why couldn't tomorrow come faster? That night was unusually hot and humid, and I couldn't get to sleep. I said all that to Sensei. They couldn't possibly decide to wait and see again this year. Satoko, what was it like for her tonight? Had she tasted the end of her nightmare, enjoying a night of liberation? I actually put my hands together and prayed into my futon. Morning.
おはよ
よかった。今日もお寝坊かと思ったよ。昨日はおばさまには先に行ったって言われるし、学校には来ていないし、途中で日射病で倒れちゃったのかなって心配してたんだから。
う。へいへい。昨日は心配かけて申し訳ございませんでした。
Hey, good morning!
みーちゃん、おはよう。大丈夫？なんかすっごく眠そうだよ。
そういえば昨日は遅くまで町会の人が集まっての打ち合わせ会だったんだろ？
打ち合わせ会なんて名ばかりの宴会だよ。毎年やってるお祭りだもん。今さら小難しい打ち合わせなんかないし。
今日の午後は、やっぱりお祭りのお手伝いに行くのかな？
うん。ばっちゃの代わりにいろいろ挨拶しなきゃなんないし。それにね、祭りってのは準備からもう始まってるからね。
Our morning conversation was lighthearted as usual. It looked like Mion had thankfully forgotten about how I'd barged into her house yesterday with that crazy talk. The more I think back on it, I felt like I'd really said something terrible to her. Yeah, you did. I was really thoughtless, and it wouldn't have been weird if she'd yelled at me. It was highly possible Takano had exaggerated her story. To think that her comrade and friend Mion, the young leader of the Sonozakis, one of the three families effectively controlling Hinamizawa, was pulling the strings behind the serial death incidents, was a little unbelievable. But if there was even a 1% chance that it was true, then what I said yesterday to Mion might have been a success. Yes, it was no more than 1 in 100. But that little bit of effort might have brought the chances of saving Satoko up by even a tiny bit. At least I'd made that effort. After yesterday ended, I was sure I'd done everything I possibly could. If there was something else I could do, it was probably just to clap my hands and pray that Satoko's uncle would be killed by the curse.
サトコ、今日は来ているといいな。
そうだね。先生がいろいろと手配してくれたんでしょ？うん、きっと大丈夫だよ。
ひなみ沢地区の民生委員が私のおばさんなんだけどさ、ゆうべ電話して聞いてみたよ。
へえ、みーちゃんのおばさんって民生委員さんなんだね。それで、さとこちゃんのことなんて言ってたの？
うん。先生があの後、直接県の児童相談所に電話してね、児童福祉士が夕べのうちに訪問したらしいよ。私のおばさんにも今後定期的にアプローチするようにと連絡があったって。
小難しい話はいいよ。それより、サトコはどうなったんだよ。保護されたのか？
おばさんはそこまでは知らされてなかったみたい。本来はこういうのって秘密だからね。おばさんが私に話してくれたのも十分に倫理違反なんだしさ。
くそ、かえって不安になったぞ。
行こう、学校に。
Right. Discussing this more would just make us feel worse. It was far quicker to go to school and see if Satoko was safe or not. The three of us nodded and ran off. Was Satoko safe? What measures had the Child Consultation Center taken? I didn't care what. As long as we could go back to our peaceful life with Satoko today, it didn't matter to me. At the shoe racks at the entrance, Rena took a peek in Satoko's shoe cubby.
さとこちゃんの靴、あるよ、あるよ。
ケイちゃん、サトコは来てるよ。よかった。
来てるだけじゃわからないだろ。サトコの顔を見るまで何もわかるものか。
We trotted toward the classroom. The classroom was lively, as it usually was in the morning.
サトコ、どこだ？
みー、ここにちゃんといますですよ。朝っぱらから騒々しいですわね。少しはお静かになさいませ。さとこちゃん、大丈夫だった？
I feel like we have not been around this girl. This is like her part, and we have not been around her that much. Like the first 2 chapters, a little bit in the tips, but not all that much. All of our friends crowded around Satoko excitedly.
保護士来たんでしょ？どういう話になったわけ？
呼んだのはどなたですの？まったく、どんな騒ぎでしたのよ。
先生だよ。あれだけ欠席すりゃ心配もする。
Satoko said, I told you I'm fine, under her breath. She was still trying to overcome all the suffering on her own.
私もおじさまもとんだ迷惑でしたのよ。急にあんなに人に押しかけられて、もう。みんなさとこちゃんのこと心配してたんだよ。迷惑だなんて言わないで。
ああ、もうとにかくそれでどうなったんだよ。
どうもこうもしませんわ。風邪が治ったから学校に来ただけのことですのよ。
Keiichi doesn't want to hear that. Keiichi wants to hear the police beat up Teppei.
これからはあんまりお休みして心配をかけないようにしないといけませんわね。
What was Satoko saying?
おじさんはどうなったの？ええ、多少誤解があったことを認めて、二人でごめんなさいをしまして。
Tug. Rika grabbed the back of my collar and pulled me away. Meep.
なんだよ、リカちゃん。
Rika silently dragged me all the way into the hallway.
リカちゃん、あれはどういうことだよ。
さとこは、何でもないと言って追い返してしまいました。
バカ野郎！ なんで
No, somewhere in my mind, I thought it might turn out like this. Satoko didn't ask for anyone's help. She didn't hide behind anyone. She was trying to ride out this pain. She wanted to show Satoshi proof that if he had come back to them, she wouldn't need to hide behind him anymore.
だけど、監督に聞いた話じゃ、保護士ってのは本人の意思に関係なく緊急保護をすることができるんだろ？いくら聡子が虐待を否定したって、虐待は事実！
Chie finally came. Her expression was far from cheerful.
ええ、前原くんの言う通り、児童福祉士は緊急性があると判断すれば、職権で緊急保護をすることができます。当事者の意思に関係なく。
じゃあどうして聡子の意思が変に尊重されて保護されないことに？
それに、沖宮の相談所もいろいろ検討した末にそういう判断を。
なんだよそりゃ！先生、昨日あんた絶対に助けるから大丈夫って言わなかったか？これはどういうことだよ！おかしいじゃねえかよ！おい！
This voice actor is going ham. I like it.
圭一、実は、里子の児童虐待の通報は、過去にも2回あったのです。
古出さん、
Sensei tried to stop her, but Rika went on speaking anyway.
過去に一昨年の冬に通報して様子見になったって話は聞いてるが、その前にもあったのか？
里子の死んでしまったお父さんは、里子の本当のお父さんではないのです。
Did I know that? Wow, I feel like I did not know that.
リカちゃん、それが、
I'm stunned at the sudden revelation. I had no idea what Rika wanted to tell me, but it seemed really important, so I couldn't get a word in either.
里子のお母さんは再婚なのです。里子とサトシはお母さんの連れ子で、お父さんとは血はつながっていなかったのです。
Satoshi was a good kid, one who listened politely to what adults told him. He was immediately welcomed by their new father and was loved. But Satoko was different. She was rebellious, she told lies, she played pranks. Her stepfather didn't like her at all.
つまり、どういうことだよ？
里子は、おじ夫婦に預けられる以前の家族の時も、あまり良好な家族関係ではなかったのです。
One bad situation after another. Of course, her stepfather didn't have any malicious intent at the start. At first, he must have worked hard to get his new daughter to accept him. But the young Satoko didn't make any effort at all towards that end. She was distant toward her stepfather and never opened her heart to him even a little. She just got on his nerves all the time, with seemingly forced lies and pranks. Her father's discipline and punishment must have been loving at first, of course, but that too faded quickly.
私はその時はひなみ沢にいなかったからよく知らないけれど、
You're new? You're an outsider?
昨日電話で初めて知りました。
先生が聞いたのはどんな話ですか？
さとこちゃんが両親、特に義理のお父さんを陥れるのを目的に自分で生活相談所に電話したって。
What?
自称と作り話？
里子は嫌いなお父さんを追い払うため嘘の電話をしたのです。
Child welfare officers rushed there. Her father genuinely apologized a few times when he had gone too far and agreed to let the child welfare center give him some coaching.
いろいろと関係機関が調べた結果ね、ギフとさとこちゃんの心のすれ違いに原因があることは分かったんだけど、それ以上にさとこちゃん自身に問題があることが分かったの。
さとこに問題って何です？
Satoko's mother. There were a few times where she had lived with de facto husbands, though those relationships didn't result in remarriage. From a young age, Satoko had been forced to call at least 2 or 3 people her father. At some point, Satoko's pranks escalated. She would spill food on purpose, turn over her plate, and even throw it. She would break the windows in her neighborhood and shoplift candy. She would put thumbtacks everywhere and set other traps to seriously hurt people. Not in the way she did now, just to get laughs. Well, I don't know, she's still doing the tack thing. She was fond of telling lies that would be found right away, and people got mad at her every time. But she never ever changed her behavior.
さとこちゃんのことを問題児なんて思わないでね。これは幼いさとこちゃんが母親を知らない男に取られまいとして取った自衛的な行為なの。
Satoko is young. Is. In regards to Satoko's problematic behavior, child psychology experts from public institutions instigated her actions were to draw her mother's attention to herself. They acknowledged that she had a form of harmful emotional trauma and declared that she needed counseling and therapy from professionals. They didn't know whether that therapy had healed the wounds in her heart.
さとこちゃんはわざと体に傷を作り、お父さんに虐待を受けているとね。
でも、結局、里子をいじめてたわけだろ、その義父は。
いいえ、虐待の話は全部、さとこちゃんの作り話だった。義理のお父さんは、もちろん少し感情的な叱り方をしてしまったかもしれないけど、逸脱しているほどではなかったの。
Satoko had lied to chase away her stepfather, and they saw through her right away and found out that Satoko had issues.
あ、ひょっとして、そのせいで、一昨年の冬は、様子見に。
はい。児童相談所に、ちゃんと昔の記録が残ってましたですから、さとこの嘘の可能性もあるから慎重に、ということになりましたのです。
なんだよ、それ。つまり、なんだよ。里子は、嘘をつくかもしれないから、慎重に。だから、様子を見ろってことになってるのかよ。
狼と羊飼いさんなのです。
That fable about telling a lie once, making others unwilling to believe you later. Well, in the fable, the kid lied a whole bunch of times. This is one time, and now the government doesn't want to believe it.
ふざけんなよ。昔のことなんか全然無関係だろう。今現在起こっている事実だけが重要なんだろうが。
I wonder if that's how it really is, or it really was in Japan. If that's why Ryokishi put it like this.
里子はおじに虐待されている。どうしてその事実が昔の出来事で歪められなきゃならねえんだよ。
Neither Sensei nor Rika had anything to say to that.
とにかく、それを慎重に判断するために、保護士さんが昨日、訪れましたのです。
And Satoko dealt with them, put on the best, strongest smile she could manage, and denied the abuse. Of course, she was probably threatened to keep quiet about it by her uncle. Satoko was trying to outlast everything without asking for help. Satoko wanted to wait for Satoshi to come back home, and she outright denied the truth of the abuse. What an idiot. You're really not enduring it. Do you really think pretending like this will actually bring Satoshi back? Just stop it already. He abandoned you, and the fact that he hasn't shown up to save you now is proof, isn't it? So just stop it. Please stop being weird and pretending to endure it.
今した話は全部忘れるように。
Satoko's pretty warped in one way or another.
いいですね。他の子に喋ったら先生怒りますからね。
Chie gave me a warning and then left to go back to the teacher's lounge.
圭一、さとこのことを、かわいそうな子なんて思わないでくださいです。さとこは、しっかり生きていますです。さとこは、
そんなの分かってる。俺たちのかけがえのない仲間だ。
さとこは、まだ頑張っています。もう少し、見守ってあげましょうです。相談所の人が、今後も定期的に訪問すると言ってるのです。大変なことになったら、すぐに助けてくれますよ。
大変なことになった後、だろ。
Any more than that would have sounded like I was picking a fight, so I firmly swallowed my next words and went back to the classroom. Mian and Rena were talking to Satoko like they always did. It was a silly conversation. A humorous, even funny one, like it was any old day. If Satoko really said she could still endure it, then maybe I should do as Rika said and watch over her. Maybe whatever help I offer will just go unwanted. Brutal.
Saate, お昼でございますわね。
Not much time has passed, huh?
みー5人揃ってのお昼は久しぶりだね。やっぱりこうじゃないとダメだよね。
まったく同感同感。ほらほらケイちゃんも机寄せて。
Sadako brought her own desk over as well, grinning broadly. Even knowing nothing had been resolved, this exchange was pleasant and made me resemble how fun it used to be.
いつまでもリカにお弁当を作ってもらっては悪いですわね。いいのですよ。サトコのお弁当を作るのは僕の楽しみなのです。
Rika's such a good girl. Having such a good friend must be so reassuring.
僕に大きなハンバーグを入れて、サトコには焦げたのを入れて、サトコだけかわいそでニパー。
I take it back. Well, she's Rika after all.
ほらほら、見て見て。今日はほら、オムライスなんだよ。マッシュルームとか美味しそうだよね。はう。いつもながらお見事なお手前でございましたよ。いつお嫁に行ってもおかしくない腕前ですわね。お嫁を食べると。はう。
レナにお嫁は NG ワードだね。以後控えるように。
ほんのちょっぴり完成しましたよ。
ところで、ミオンの弁当はなんだよ。今日のはまた趣が違って期待大だな。
おじさんはまったりと夕べのおかず詰め合わせね。煮物がいい感じなんだよ。ほら、大根の色はかなりいいでしょ。
わあ、美味しそうなのです。
煮物は一晩寝かせてからが真骨頂だな。これはかなりいけそうだ。よってサトコの分はなし。俺が全部食って感想を聞かせるから黙って見てろ。
なんですって？私の分もおよこしなさいな。
I'll use my knees too. Oria!
密着距離まで入れば私の有利は動きませんわね。ケイチさんの分のお大根が実に美味しいですわ。
ちっくしょう。バトル開始時から密着でいきなりコンボとは無念。
This little exchange, how long had it been? It looked like they'd end up going with the wait and see approach, but maybe her uncle had realized he'd gone a little too far and would dial it back for now. Yeah, that's how abusers usually go. If her treatment improved a little, would that be a good thing? It's not how abusers usually go. Satoko was grinning wider than I'd ever seen, and as she chomped down on her mouthful of daikon she plundered from me. Did it really taste that good? Oh, whoa. Satoko was somehow cute like that. This is cute? And just as I'd done many times, I grabbed her head and started petting it. Doesn't look cute. She looks dead. Catch. Smack. Flip-flop. Clitter-clatter.
サトコちゃん？
It was so sudden that for a moment I didn't know what had happened. I feel like most people would be like, don't touch my head. I'm amazed everyone's like, oh yeah, give me a little pet. The back of my hand was stinging. I I went to pet Satoko's head, and then she hit my hand.
どうしたの、さとこ。
This is freaking them out somehow. Satoko was scratching at her head, as though a pimple or something had appeared on it and become itchy. It was so sudden and so unprovoked that I didn't understand what had happened.
どうしたさとこ。
At some point, her body had been covered in a thin layer of sweat, and her breathing had turned ragged. When I pet her head, did she not like it? Was that what it meant?
お前、頭撫でられるの嫌いだったっけ？
Maybe keep your hands to yourself, but probably there's more going on. Once again, slowly, I held out the palm of my hand again and brought it close to Satoko's head. The instant the palm of my hand touched her head, there was a shock like static electricity, and Satoko began to howl. She grabbed my arm in both hands, as if flinging it off like a snake trying to cling to her, as if trying to throw away something dirty. She threw it violently. It happened too suddenly for me to react. I hit the desk behind me, and both it and I fell to the floor. The classroom fell deathly silent. As Satoko bellowed, it sounded like she was in the throes of death, and she unsteadily backed away. Oh. She is bad. You know, the way she's acting, it sounds more like more than just physical abuse. Then she threw up the food she had just eaten. She vomited it all back up. Splish splash. The sound of Satoko's vomit hitting the floor rang through the classroom. Maybe that's why in the tips that scary music started playing last time.
大丈夫かよ、さとこ。具合でも。
But this could also be something else. I reached out a hand, and she swatted it away with all her might. With such extreme strength that I fell onto the floor again. Satoko put both her hands on her head as though protecting it, groaned some more, and took a few steps back. And then she began swinging both hands around. Students in nearby seats were forced to evacuate. She grabbed anything within reach, bento boxes, chairs, threw them, tossed them, and flung them about.
ちょっとやめなよ、さとこ。あんた、どうしちゃったの？
She screamed out as if Mion's words had caused her physical pain. No one spoke a word to her. All the students were withdrawing behind us, leaving Satoko alone in the corner of the classroom. Tell CPS about this stuff. Jesus. Around her, there were desks and chairs all over the floor. Bento lay scattered. It was terrible. All I could hear was Satoko's ragged breaths and the voices of the cicadas. The strings of tension loosened around Satoko, and maybe she suddenly grew scared of her own actions because she started trembling and gave a word of apology. But nobody knew just what that apology was directed towards. So for now, I decided to answer as everyone's representative.
いや、そっちこそ大丈夫か？
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
Our words didn't match each other at all. Satoko hugged her shoulders, and back she went. She ran into the locker with the cleaning supplies in it. Even that made her give a little yelp. The impact caused the bucket atop the locker to fall, making a loud sound, and that scared Satoko most of all. She almost jumped out of her skin, grabbing a bunch of curtain in her hands. Nobody spoke to her. They could only look, not even remembering to blink.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。私じゃないです。私じゃないです。
Satoko, what on earth? I stood up, took a step away from everyone, and approached Satoko. Maybe don't do that.
何があったんだ？
だから、私知らないです。私知らないです。違うから、もう嫌です。やめてください。許して。
落ち着けよ。サトコ、俺がわかるか？
もう嫌だ。嫌です。
Every time I took a step forward, she grasped the curtains more tightly and cried out.
サトコ、俺だよ。ケイチだ。わかんないのか？お前に危害なんか加えない！だから落ち着けって！大丈夫だ！俺はお前の味方だって！
助けて。怖いのやだ。気持ち悪いのやだ。
Suddenly, my shoulders were grabbed and I was dragged backwards. It was Rena.
ごめん、ケイチくんはちょっと後ろに行ってて。
After pulling me back, she ran towards Satoko in my place.
大丈夫だよ、さとこちゃん。もう怖いことなんかないよ。ほら、安心して。やだ。もうやだ。でも、やだ。にー助けて。にー助けてよ。
As she gripped the curtains and kept calling for Nini, she continued to wail about being forgiven for something and to be saved from something. What is this? Mia gnashed her teeth and groaned, and there were tears falling from her firmly closed eyes.
どうなってんだよ、これ。昨日で全部終わったんじゃないのか？今日からまた元の生活に戻っていくんじゃないのか？ミオ！
There was a crazy sound. Rena had taken the cleaning supply locker and kicked it down to the ground. Everyone stood surprised at Rena's unexpected act of brutality. After that, Rena embraced the bawling Satoko from behind and started crying with her, stifled.
レナ、どうした？
ごめん。ケイチくん、ちょっと黙ってて。
Everyone here needs therapy.
今のはなんだよ？どうしたんだよ？サトコから何か聞いたのか？何を聞いたんだよ？
サイナー！黙ってろって言ってんでしょ！
Okay. Rena's raw, hostile emotion hit me like a brick. It was no more than a momentary howl of emotion for Rena, but it was more than that for me. She had shown me what was behind all that emotion, what was in her heart.
Satoko-chan. やだ。もう、やだ。許して。何もできなかった私たちを。許して。
They're gonna leave it ambiguous, huh?
ごめんね。
Forgive us for not being able to do anything. Rena's word made me feel as though the blood vessels in the back of my head were suddenly all turning to ash. My vision grew distant, blurred with gray, and the world lost its color. I thought I thought we could save Satoko. But though I knew it'd be the sooner the better, I thought there was no time limit for doing that. I never dreamed that would be too late. I'd been making a huge mistake. I thought Satoko could be hurt, but never that she'd break. It was such a huge mistake. People, they break. Thinking that they don't is absolutely absurd. We needed to save Satoko. We needed to save her before she broke. That fatal lapse in awareness had brought this on. Whose fault was it? That went without saying. Mine, no ours. We all took the duty of saving Satoko, but we were negligent to the point of laziness. In that sense, this was the inevitable result. Even if this didn't happen today, and it happened tomorrow, or the day after, or next week, we'd have just sat around doing nothing until that day. So, this was the obvious result. I slumped down to my knees, just as Mion and Rika had done, and I too closed my eyes tight and couldn't stop myself from sobbing.
何の騒ぎですか？ちょっと、何があったんです？
The teacher came, her face screwed up at the terrible spectacle before her. The instant she realized the teacher was here, Satoko went through another complete change. She wiped her face with the curtains and, like nothing happened, smiled.
北条さん、これは一体何事ですか？
ちょっと、レナさんと喧嘩になってしまっただけですのよ。お弁当をめぐってちょっぴり大暴れなんですの。ね。
Rena didn't nod in reply. But then, since Satoko wished it, she nodded without its strength. The rest of the class couldn't keep up with her extreme changes. Somebody say something. We all just stared in a daze.
ちょっと悪ふざけをしただけなんですのよ。皆さん、度肝を抜かれすぎでございますわね。
Satoko would probably sweep the whole thing under the rug. For what? Her heart is torn to pieces. So what? What else? You wanted your needy to help, didn't you? But unfortunately for you, Satoshi doesn't ever intend on coming back. It's never that easy. He won't just conveniently show up and save you. So you don't have to wait for him anymore. You can cry, beg for help. You can just run away.
私たちが無力だから。
Mion suddenly said. She spoke then, those few words that had tormented me countless times. Those words were a spell, and when I heard them, my whole body suddenly regained its calm. My emotions all slipped away like they'd never been there, like a wave departing. And then the world's color flipped inside out. My field of view expanded. My head grew remarkably cold, and I felt like my mind's volume had grown even wider than the classroom we were in. At the time, my soul was doubtlessly no longer in the small, petty vessel of my head, but floating in the air, a little bit above it. It was a mysterious feeling of release. I broke free of the cramped confines of my soul and stretched out my roots in all directions as far as I wanted to. It was a strange feeling and one I'd never felt before. An odd sense of exhilaration. My sharpened senses caused me to transcend. My mind was sharper than a knife's edge, and I immediately decided that spending the time to let myself be crushed with grief would be an absolute waste. I erased all the garbage information from my brain. I expelled the pointless emotions presenting obstacles to action.
ミオ、お前は呪ってろ。自分の無力さをいつまでも。
If I could have taken back what had happened by crying about it, I'd have cried all day. But the fact was, this was how things turned out. I couldn't take back what had happened. The top priority then would be to prevent the situation from worsening further and to sever the chains of misfortune with murder. Until today, I'd been looking at things so narrow-mindedly I could scarcely believe it. To save Satoko, the only thing to do was to save Satoko. That's the only thing I thought about. I didn't allow myself to realize the most basic, direct, and certain way of removing the source of Satoko's unhappiness. No, actually, I realized it yesterday. But as for the means, I'd rely on some stupid curse from some dumb deity. I never considered carrying the task out myself. I would obliterate Satoko's uncle. There were plenty of ways to do it. I like how they're playing the cool music while he's thinking about murder. This was a task that held infinite methods. Ironically, the method of saving Satoko required mostly money, but the method of killing the man pretty much took no money at all. I could kill him with the least amount of investment. The least amount of money suited him. It was only the weight of his life. I kept eliminating needless, worthless information from my head, replenishing it only with the knowledge I'd need to achieve my goal. I used every cell in my head to think about how I'd kill him. The way I killed him didn't matter. I would allow any method, from whatever time and whatever country, as long as it ended in a quick and certain death. If I were to have an additional condition, it would have not have been caught. Removing him was an act designed to return the peaceful times we had with Satoko. If I was arrested in exchange for removal, then we might as well have killed each other. With only him gone, we'd go back to our normal lives. That was my supreme objective, my ultimate goal. Kill him, definitely. But definitely don't leave any evidence either. Two alternatives at odds with each other. The condition of not leaving a trace back to me automatically narrowed the number of murder methods. No witnesses was an absolute must. Fortunately, given the right time in Hinamizawa, there would be nobody around. I mentally reconstructed the land around Satoko's house. The number of pedestrians, different at different times. The movement algorithm of their neighbors. Would I lure him out or charge at him? What would my weapon be? When and where would I carry this out? Where? It needed to be somewhere I wouldn't leave a trace. When? It needed to be as soon as possible, for Satoko's safety, without wasting even a millisecond. This is absurd, completely absurd. When I thought about it this way, it struck me how easy the act of killing was. If I could leave evidence, if I was just going to kill him, anyone could easily turn into a murderer. But our reason prevented that. It told us doing so would get us arrested for sure. In the end, getting arrested by the police was the final thing preventing people from committing homicide. Well, yeah, final, okay, maybe. Absurd. If he went all the way into the very middle of the ocean, he wouldn't leave any trace at all. Anyone would drop those they hated into the depths if they knew that. It was all too easy to simply remove him. I could leave class right now, grab a metal baseball bat or something from the schoolyard, go to his house, and attack him. Estimated time would be 25 minutes. If I wanted us to kill each other, it wouldn't have been minutes. I could do it in 1500 seconds. I knew just how much his continued existence depended on me. Well, he's going crazy now. He only lives because I allow it. He was nothing. I could expel him from this world within just 1500 seconds after making up my mind. From when I decided what to do, he only had 1500 seconds. Actually, if I ran full speed to his house, that number would get down even further. But he was alive. He was still part of this world at this very moment, having torn Satoko's body and mind to shreds. Why? Because I was letting him live. I was permitting him to live, so he was alive. If I rescinded that permission, he would be evaluated in his mortal coil within 1500 seconds. Evacuating. You'd think I'd let you live to breathe even 1500 seconds more of air? I'm taking that permission back, right here, right now. Your permission to live. You'd better thank me for letting you live until today. However, I actually needed more than 1500 seconds. I'm not just going to end you. Getting back to our old lives is far more important. It's only you I'll be cleanly cutting out of this world. They won't find a culprit. I'll forget that I dirtied my hands on the legs of you as naturally as I brushed my teeth before bed. So to do that, I'd make a special exception for you and give you more than 1500 seconds. I'll give you special permission to keep on living as long as you have until I can construct a perfect plan for your murder. Wait, Keiichi. You can't let that time go to waste. Yeah, I know. I'll kill him quickly. I'll remove him with certainty. I won't even waste much time to perfect that plan. Think back. Tomorrow is Watanagashi, right? Last year on the night of Watanagashi, her aunt died. Her head was busted open by some deviant, and her brain splattered everywhere. That's it. He's someone who deserves to be given the death on the night of Watanagashi. Hey, Oyashiro-sama. You called yourself a guardian, but you didn't protect Satoko. Cursing Satoko's family for the damn stuff is your own business, but now you've made Satoko unhappy when she didn't have anything to do with it. I, Keiichi Maibara, hereby denounce you, the guardian deity of Hinamizawa, a failure. We don't need you. Go back to the deepest, darkest part of your shrine this year. Besides, if you had just cursed and killed both her aunt and her uncle last year, none of this would have ever happened. To curse, dear seer, it's not on you. I'll be the one deciding. It won't be the three families controlling the serial deaths behind the scenes. No, not some vague people who I can't tell if they're buffoons or not. This time, I'll be the one to deliver divine judgment. So don't get in my way and just watch. Stay quiet and watch. I'll obliterate him. I'll wipe him off the face of the earth. I will stomp out his very existence. Go away, disappear. I'll tear your heart apart just like you did to Satoko. I'll have your blood as payment. He's turning into an orc.
ケイイチくん、大丈夫？
You've been standing there, talking about murder, mumbling about murder for the last 5 minutes. Rena, Mion, and Rika were looking right after me. Had I fallen to the floor? You did?
急に倒れたからびっくりしたよ。
Oh, he got so angry he had an aneurysm.
うなされてなかった？うなってたよ。
うるさい。
Or it could be something else.
黄色い声で話しかけるな。
Man, class this day is freaking drama. My friends gave a start and backed away.
なんだよ。
Rena and the others, they exchanged glances, unsure of what to say, and stood confused for a few moments.
今の、ケイイチくんの声。
当たり前だろ。
Rena gulped firmly and opened her mouth.
今一瞬、ケイイチくん、すごい目だった。
目？光の角度でそう見えたんだろ。バカバカしい。
見間違いじゃないよ。
Keiichi's voice actor is also talking much more maturely, or with a deeper voice.
あんな目、初めて見た。
What were those guys talking about? They've all been too scared of me lately.
前原ケイイチくんだよね。
What was Rena saying? Who else do I look like except Keiichi? The look I gave her seemed to speak quite eloquently to those irritated thoughts. She understood and quickly apologized.
ごめん、気にしないでね。
Can you imagine missing class today? Dude, the wildest thing happened. Alright. Emergency. June 18, 1983. Abuse issues regarding Satoko Hojo. Urgent. We propose that Satoko Hojo must be taken into immediate custody based on the items below. Family situation. Life with adopted father who recently returned to Hinamizawa has already turned disastrous, and she is currently subject to unendurable physical and mental abuse from the father. Okay, so just that, huh? Child Consultation Center's response. A child probation officer was dispatched yesterday on the 17th from the prefecture welfare office, but because of the 77 case, changed to continued coaching and cautionary action. Unfortunately, the consultation office head does not properly understand the situation. Status of concerned child. Child already appears to be suffering from an outbreak of something close to neurosis or manic depression. If her unstable prepubescent mind is negatively stimulated by stress, it will put her development of a healthy body and mind at risk. This cannot be allowed to continue from a humane standpoint. Allegations made to the family court. We propose, based on the above items, that Satoko Hosho should immediately be taken into protective custody. She should be secured temporarily under emergency allegations to the family court under Article 28. We request emergency coordination between all related agencies. Okay, so just a minute. Some file number. Hold on. Who was this? It's not clear. I imagine this is a CPS report. Children with Special Needs, General Ch.03, number 44. Consultation circumstances. Telephone SOS from child of child abuse. Abuse situation. Child claims she is being physically abused by her adopted father. Family structure. Circle marks the abusers. This is back in 77, so this is the one with her stepfather. Older brother, child in question. Adopted father and real mother entered family registry in 19-something. The child is the daughter of the mother's previous husband. Child Consultation Center's response. On the day of the child's telephone consultation, the center called the child's school and asked of her situation. On that day, the child welfare officer on duty visited the child's house and conducted an interview. The adopted father sincerely listened to the instruction and agreed to take child raising workshops in the city from now on. As part of the suggested coaching, the center will continue to observe the situation. Other notes. As a result of numerous counseling sessions at the city's education consultation office regarding the child, we learned that there was a high possibility the cause of the child's excessive distrust toward her adopted father was the result of a lack of communication. The abuse she claimed she hadn't actually taken place. She just made a false report to distance herself from her adopted father. Below is a note written in pencil by the person on duty at the time. The problem appeared to be more with the daughter. Chief Investigator F of the city's education consultation office said that most of her stories of abuse were likely fabrications. They decided to shift the focus of their coaching to the child. Be cautious not to take everything the child says as truth. Okay, so that's kind of worthless, huh? Thanks for nothing. Okay, so I'm thinking Keiichi's he's in murder rage right now. I think we're about to get murdered next time. Looking forward to that.